welcome in. So I have weekly discussions with Drew McKissick, head of the Republican Party here in South Carolina. And boy, has this week turned into national news when it comes to Drew McKissick and the Republican Party. Has been Drew says, I don't like Zoom. Yes, hi. I don't like Zoom. I said, come on, let's get on video and talk. I know we're on radio weekly. If you can catch the show live, 6 to 9 a.m. on 94.3 WSC. It's streamed live wherever you are. And Drew, here you are making national news. And lo and behold, I had no idea that Lin Wood, this is Trump's former attorney, even lived in South Carolina. And now he's coming for your job.
Well, it is kind of odd to have someone who's never actually run a campaign before want to run the campaign organization for all Republicans in an entire state. I find that a little bit odd, but, look, it's a free country. It's a free party. Any Republican who wants to run is able to run, and, I welcome the challenge.
Drew, where is this coming from, though? I mean, it was sort of out of nowhere. There's a chairmanship vote coming up on May 15th, and it's just really odd.
Yeah, odd is the word, and which I think might have had something to do with why President Trump decided to sort of double down on his endorsement of my campaign yesterday. So I got a call from the president around 2:00 yesterday afternoon. He said, just want you to know we're reissuing another endorsement today, and go get them. And thanks for all you're doing for the party. And who's this attorney guy who's running against you? And then I explained what's going on. He's like, oh, that's weird. And so anyway,
but Drew, certainly
it's nice to be appreciated.
But Drew, Trump knows who Lin Wood is. I mean, he, is a huge supporter. I mean, Lin Wood's created quite a platform for himself because of his association with Donald Trump and being an attorney. And so this is very confusing to people. So Drew mentioned that that former President Trump doubled down on his endorsement for you just so as to clear any confusion. Yep. And what I find interesting is in his doubling down statement, he actually touted something that's very interesting. And it is that you, Drew, with your leadership as the chairman of the Republican Party in South Carolina, had a bigger victory than pretty much Lin Wood or any other attorney on Trump's behalf in the country when it comes to shoring up voter integrity in 2020 in the elections. Explain.
Yeah. Well, first off, we turned out more votes for Donald Trump for president here in South Carolina in November of 2020 than any other presidential candidate in the history of South Carolina. So starting with that and then working your way down, so to speak, we had the U.S. Senate race. We won by double digits, despite Democrats spending $150+ million against us. That giant flushing sound you heard in November was $150 million being flushed down the toilet here in South Carolina. So thank y'all very much. We won back the first congressional district race. We picked up the biggest state house and state senate majorities in over 140 years. And won multitudes of other local level races all the way down from, sheriff's races, clerk of courts races, county council races, you name it. The biggest tale of the tape for me, really, for the growth of the party here in the state has been straight ticket voting. You and I have talked about this before. 2016 was the first time we ever beat Democrats on straight ticket voting. We beat them by 2.5 points. And then in 18, we beat them by 8 points. And this past November, we beat them by 17 points. And to me, that's a lot of these folks who've come into the party, folks who support the president, thinking of themselves more and more as Republicans and getting involved in the party. And it's been great. That's why I think we've seen the growth, why we saw the victories that we saw. And, you judge a campaign operation by the results. That's the nice thing about campaigns. When it comes to politics, after Election Day, somebody won, somebody lost, and you know how well you did. So by the tail of the tape, we've had the best year Republicans have ever had in the history of the party.
But Drew, we talk about this every week, how Democrats want to blow up the Republican Party, and they're doing so with the help of libertarian leaning folks right now. And I'm just confused. There's even this, I heard someone the other day say libertarian socialists, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what on earth? How do we clear up because you've got patriots and conservatives looking at rhinos on a national level on down, and they're on the hunt, and they're rightfully ready to get rid of the rhinos in the Republican Party. But what do you want to say to that? I mean, you're kind of being accused of being a rhino and getting involved in political races with against fiscal conservatives, and that's really not your place. So
well, first off, when it comes to this so-called libertarian socialist, I'm really wondering what that is. I don't think I've ever met one before.
I don't even know what this means. Yeah.
So, whatever the heck that is, I mean, for the folks who want to accuse, me or, anybody in the party leadership here of being, in South Carolina anyway, of being rhinos, I mean, as soon as people, point a finger, they've got four more pointing back at them. I mean, I would say libertarians are the ones who are definitely rhinos, because there's a party for libertarians. It's called the Libertarian Party. If you want to be a libertarian, go over there. Don't come over here. I mean, that's I'm not running for chairman of the Libertarian Party. I'm running for chairman of the Republican Party. We've worked for over 30 plus years to make the Republican Party more and more conservative in terms of our platform, in terms of the candidates that we nominate. And you don't get everything that you want overnight in any kind of a process that involves more than two people. You're always going to have differences of opinion. But we've got, again, the strongest conservative platform we've ever had in the history of our party. And I correlate that to also having now the most Republican victories that we've had in the history of our party. Part of our job is to promote our platform and elect candidates who will support it. And again, we made the greatest strides in that direction in the history of our party last November. So I'm happy to stand on our results.
We just need conservatives not to fall for this rhino versus patriot stuff. I mean, I realize that we're family and there's going to be fighting and it could be ugly, but let's not let Democrats have this victory. It's just not necessary. It really isn't. There's such momentum going on right now. And that being said, do you see a place, if Lin Wood now lives in South Carolina, for Lin Wood in this party? I mean, he certainly, if he's here, he certainly can help. I don't know why he wouldn't have a conversation with the chairman of the party on how that looks.
I think there is a place for anybody who wants to help drive conservative principles forward in this state, period. I mean, again, in terms of my personal opinion and my personal beliefs, I'm a fiscal conservative, a social conservative, a Christian conservative. I think of myself as a comprehensive conservative, if you will. But I look at the party as being the vehicle to help drive the conservative movement. That's to me, that's what the party is there for. And, because political parties in and of themselves don't stand for anything. They're just vehicles to get from A to B. It's the people who actually stand for something. And the people who are in the party at any given moment, is going to be what that party stands for. The analogy I've always used is, the party's kind of like a bus. Every 2 years, we pull that bus over to the side of the road. People get off, people get on, and we argue over where we want to go, and we fight over the steering wheel, and then we drive for 2 more years. But it's in everybody's best interest that's on the bus that we've got gas in the tank, we've got good tires, we got a good engine, or nobody gets what they want. So it's our job as a party organization, which is what we are. We are, South Carolina Republican Party is the campaign operation for Republicans in South Carolina. Our job is to elect candidates, and that's what we do. And I think, again, we did that more effectively than at any time in our party's history this past November. President Trump recognizes that, and he's recognized our support of him, and he's endorsed my campaign now twice in the last month.
So Drew, we know in South Carolina, the trifecta in the state of red, we talk about it weekly, House, Senate, governor. And listen, Democrats are coming for all of that. They've already got a saying, flip it blue in 22. So people need to pay attention to all the fracturing and all the nonsense. And we just, clear the confusion from all of this.
Well, the thing we need to be aware of is, we're going into what we call an off-year cycle. It's a non-presidential year cycle, which means we don't have a presidential candidate at the top of the ticket to help motivate and turn our voters out. So that means that you lean that much more on your local county party infrastructure all across the state to actually turn out Republican voters. So you never can take anything like that for granted. Turnout's going to drop probably about 35 to 40% in 22 versus 20. And so it's going to be our job to identify those Republicans and get them out to vote, because we've got every constitutional office on the ticket. Tim Scott's going to be on the ticket. in addition to congressional seats and all of our state house seats around the state.
This is huge. It really is. This is the timing is key. But you know what? None of this matters if our vote isn't counted. So
Correct.
Let's go full circle on this. Every week we talk about shoring up voter integrity and having 2020 never happen again. What is going on there? Because you're leading the fight before there was even really a fight that people were paying attention to.
Well, that's part of what we're focusing on now on a couple levels. One, here in South Carolina, again, obviously, we didn't have the problems here they had in other states. You know, we got it right. We fought back a bit against the Democrat attempts to use coronavirus as a way to get judges to change our election laws in the middle of the campaign last year. We fought that all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. And, you know, in other states, they had serious problems. And there are legislative fixes that need to be made. I've been appointed to a RNC ballot integrity committee, which is looking at those states and the problems and what kind of potential changes we need to look at in terms of model legislation. And now the RNC is going to invest money in lobbying campaigns in those states to try to get those fixes passed. Here in South Carolina, you know, just because everything went great for us this past year doesn't mean we don't have places where we could improve and could tighten things down even more to make sure we don't have a problem in the future. And we're working on that right now with various members of the legislature. There are about 4 or 5 different pieces of legislation. One that would ensure that county election commissions have to all be answerable to our state election commission and apply the laws equally and evenly in every county, which has not always been the case. It seems like it makes common sense, and you would think that was the way things were already done. Unfortunately, they're not, so we're fixing that. Things like our absentee ballot laws or mail-in absentee ballot laws, just to make sure that they can't be abused in the future, especially on the mass scale that we saw in other states, tightening that down, how often and how counties have to purge their voter rolls, you know, bumping up against national change of address and, you know, death records, blah, 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 that kind of common sense, you know, reforms that we can make. So we're making great progress on that. We're in good shape here. The bigger thing is looking at what happens in these other states to prevent that kind of thing from happening in the future.
All right, Drew McKissick, we do this chat weekly here on 94.3 WSE and the Kelly Golden Show. So we'll see what kind of national news you make next week, huh?
I'll work on it.
Yes, I appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I appreciate everyone listening and watching. And I told Drew we'll do more video here. He's gonna get a stand for his phone, I told him. So thank you so much for tuning in. Live talk show, of course, weekdays, 94.3 WSC, 6 to 9 a.m. You can stream it, of course, on the iHeartRadio app and on our website. Also, the post-show podcast where you can get Drew's views you just heard a little bit of there weekly, along with post-show content. It's on demand. You can check it out wherever you get podcasts. Just search my name, Kelly Golden. Thanks much, everybody.